one-handed wonders, contested catches, and sky-high snags over secondaries. The NFL's premier playmakers might make it look simple, but playing receiver is anything but. It's much more than just running and catching, requiring a combination of dynamic movement, complex scheme understanding, and split-second decision-making to get open. Let's break down the position in its entirety and go through everything that makes a truly elite receiver. First, we need to understand the different types of pass catchers and their common alignments. These positions should be thought of as archetypes and are by no means set in stone. We start with the X receiver. Think Randy Moss, Julio Jones, or more recently, Justin Jefferson. These are your big-bodied, go-to playmakers, traditionally lined up out wide, ready to take the top off a defense. The X is your number one receiver. A Z traditionally lines up off-ball on the same side as the tight end or Y. This makes sure they're not covering up an eligible receiver and allows them to be the motion man in the offense, helping the QB and OC as a move piece. Traditionally, you're looking for a route runner here, but speed is always desired, especially if the X receiver is more of a big-bodied possession guy. Any successful offense needs somebody that can take the game vertical. The newest archetype, the slot receiver or F position, has become a staple of the modern game. Most often lined up between the X or Z receiver and the offensive line, this position attacks defenses inside, helping create mismatches. The prototype is Wes Welker, who in 2007 set the league ablaze as part of an all-time offense. The Patriots diverted from two-back systems in favor of three receiver sets, moving the fullback to the slot. And it worked out so well that the whole league copied him. With the evolution of the position happening so recently, the slot has seen huge changes since its adoption. From a shifty lunch pail carrying guy finding the soft spot in the zone, to using burners to attack teams vertically, to, in modern times, being used for your wide receiver ones, getting them mismatches inside. And let's not forget the tight end or Y position. This has become a hybrid position of its own, no longer just occupying a space next to a tackle as an extra blocker, but fully fledged pass catchers. Guys like Tony Gonzalez, Jimmy Graham, and Travis Kelce have redefined our expectations of the position. And now, everyone wants a playmaking tight end. Remember to think of these X, Y, Z, and F alignments as archetypes, not permanent positions. Now that we're all lined up, let's look at how to get off the line. A release is the footwork pattern used by a receiver to get out of their stance and into their route. Offense is all about timing, so receivers need to be efficient in their footwork and avoid any contact that would throw off the rhythm of the play. Which release a receiver uses depends on the defender's opposite, the route they're running, and their own arsenal of moves. When no defender is up close, receivers are free to get into your route straight away, getting out the blocks as fast as possible. When the corner is up close and ready to press, this is when you unleash your array of moves. The speed release is the most basic, telling the DB you don't care about him and are simply going to run by him with your athleticism. Watch Jefferson bring his leg back across to open the angle, then turn on the burners to blow past his man. You got to make sure you get wide to avoid the heads-up defender. Then you step on the accelerator, getting up the stem and into your route as quickly as possible. Obviously, this has some downsides, as its simplicity may let a DB into your body, but it's great against a soft press. That's a DB aligning close but not actually pressing. Another common release is the foot fire. On the snap, the receiver will rapidly fire his feet and hands to make the DB hesitate, then cut past him and get fast into the route. You've got to close the space on the DB first, or he can easily follow you on the cut. But this release is highly effective as it often forces the defender to show the leverage he wants to play with. Active hands are needed because if you just stutter, you'll get pressed into oblivion. Next up is the hop release, another excellent choice versus press and soft press. Sometimes called the split release, it's exactly as these names suggest, hopping off the line and splitting the feet shoulder width apart, aiming at the DB in the process. The hop closes the space between you and the defender while squaring them up, forcing them to show their intentions and putting you in an athletic stance ready to cut in either direction. You'll also see this technique used against soft coverage a couple of steps into the route too, again aiming to square up and cut away from the DB's leverage. Be careful though, use this too many times and a DB will be able to time his jam with the hop and throw you off rhythm. When DBs are trying to consistently turn you outside, a great counter is the diamond release. taking 3 big steps out wide before cutting back across the defender's face when he chases. You gotta make sure to sell the 3 steps hard, dragging the DB wide to follow you to create space for the cut. When it's ran well, it'll turn the corner into a tailspin. Its only downside is it's limited to routes attacking the middle of the field. These are just some common examples, and there are hundreds of variants receivers can learn and match to their game, but they all follow some basic principles. You've got to eliminate that space between you and the DB. If he's playing slightly off you, you got to get on his toes before you hit him with the move, or you'll have too much time to react. When you attack a guy with the release, you want to be attacking half the defender in the opposite way you want to go. Want to go in? Attack the outside shoulder. Want to go out? Attack the inside shoulder, make him turn his hips, then work back outside. Getting DBs to turn their hips or change their leverage is the key to winning. Elite receivers can do this against every alignment. Be careful not to get too far off your route though. You can leave the lane on the release, but you gotta get back on the original track to attack the right window. Another thing to remember is that your job is to get open, not to cut the DB into the turf. When young receivers start learning releases, they want to break ankles in the one-on-one drills, but that's not really your job. Your job is to run the route and get open. Your release is there to help dodge them, and that's all you should be thinking. Read the defender, react, and leave him in the dust. And all this footwork needs to be combined with your hands. Receivers need to learn moves similar to pass rushers, combining them with the footwork to dodge the DB. Now, for a receiver's bread and butter, route running. On each passing play, a receiver is assigned a route to run. It might be the primary threat on the play, the secondary option, or just a route designed to cause conflict on the coverage. But no matter where you are in the progression, you gotta run it like you're the number 1 option. Today's NFL pass catchers are expected to learn and run dozens upon dozens of different routes across the formation. In fact, here's an old Shanahan-Kubiak playbook which includes 95 different routes across the receiver and tight end positions, and 118 if you include running backs. Obviously, that's too many for us to cover in one video, but here's the basic route tree you'll see every Sunday. Starting at the bottom of the tree, the flat route is a quick outbreaker designed to attack the shallow space horizontally. A receiver will take 1 to 3 steps, then burst to the sideline. This can either be run with a round cut to get the ball out quick versus zone or off man, or run with a sharp cut, hard cutting to create separation versus tight man coverage. These are mostly quick hitting routes QBs are looking to early, but you'll also see them used as part of the play action game, where a tight end or inside receiver first blocks the edge before flashing to the flat. Next up is the slant, football's go-to quick hitter. A receiver will sell 1 to 3 steps vertically before cutting hard off their outside foot, attacking infield at a 45-degree angle, ready for the catch straight out the cut. It's an effective route versus man or zone, but the QB and receiver must be in sync, or these quick hitters easily end up in the hands of waiting defenders. The out route is another football staple, first pushing vertical out of the block before cutting at 90 degrees towards the sideline. This can be run at various depths between 6 and 16 yards depending on its route pairing and the concept. It's great at attacking teams who are trying to leave this space open in quarters, or wide receivers facing inside leverage versus man coverage, where it's unbeatable if the QB and receiver are in sync. You'll most often see this run with a rounded speed cut, trying to get to the space quickly to outflank the defense, but you'll also see sharp 90 cuts too. The opposite of the out route is the in, which breaks 90 degrees inside. Again, you want to push hard vertically to sell a deeper route, then cut hard to break away from a defender. Reading the coverage is important here, with receivers adjusting based on man or zone, given license to sell outside more versus man, or throttle down into the gap after the cut versus zone. It's become less common in the NFL in recent years, but its deeper cousin, the dig, is one of the league's go-tos. The dig aims to attack the intermediate part of the field between the zone levels, and is a great chunk play route. There are many variations of the dig with multiple types of cuts, so you might see this listed as a drift or bang route, but these follow the same principles, just as different depths, aiming to that intermediate zone. You'll see this route both rounded and cut hard, with rounder cuts to find the soft spot in the zone, and sharper 90 cuts versus man. Next is the stop route, which isn't just one route, but a whole family of them. Think hitches, curls, hooks, and sticks. The aim is for a receiver to get to a specific spot in the field, then sharply turn back, ready for the ball right out the cut. No matter the depth, you have to sell the stem vertical to create space and stop the DB camping on the cut. The cut is equally important, with efficient footwork being king. Take too many steps to slow down, and the DB will be all over you. Underneath, you'll also see spot and stick variations, where a receiver will first get to a spot and turn around, then is given the license to break in or out based on the coverage they're seeing, removing one of the route's weaknesses in its staticness. We've been talking a lot about pushing vertically, so let's finally talk about the go ball. This is the classic deep shot that helps build the threat of all your breaking routes. The receiver's aim is to get out the blocks fast, then keep working that vertical path, trying to get behind the deepest man for a home run shot. Just because speed is required doesn't mean there's no subtlety to this route. Knowing how to utilize body feints and vary your acceleration will help create extra separation that's not predicated on just flat-out burners. Its cousin, the fade, is probably even more popular, with the receiver drifting towards the sideline after making their burst to top speed, using the width of the field to create extra separation. Working off the threat of the deep ball, the comeback route is a hard vertical sell, only for the receiver to slam on the brakes and cut over their outside shoulder, finding the space on the sideline. The key to the comeback is you've really got to sell that vertical push. Timing is also huge here, and the QB needs to be throwing this ball at the break so the receiver is cutting back into the ball and leaving the defender no chance. Run well versus man, and it's almost an impossible ball to stop, which is why you'll see it a lot on crucial downs or inside 2 minutes. Staying with the deep part of the field, the corner route works off the go ball too, with the receiver sprinting downfield before cutting 45 degrees to the sideline. The depth of the cut can vary depending on route combinations, as can its angle after the cut, often adjusted flatter to attack the space. In zone, this sideline gap is usually given up, so it's a great spot to attack if your QB has touch. Corners are most often run from the slot, as running it from out wide leaves no space to attack. However, this is where you'll often see the circus route in its place. The circus has a corner cut, but has an initial release inside, before then being pushed vertical, and lastly, cut boundary. This in-breaking stem sells an inside route while creating space to work back into. Speaking of selling, its cousin, the Seattle route, releases inside trying to sell the crosser before looping back boundary to attack the same space as a corner. The mirror image of the corner route, the post, gets its name from aiming directly at the goalposts. Again, attacking vertically, the post cuts inside and upfield between 12 to 18 yards. The regular post is run at a 45-degree angle, and the receiver needs to be ready right from the get-go, expecting it straight out the break, but not losing stride if the QB throws it long. Depending on the defensive structure or route combos, it might also be run as a skinny post, making the cut less severe at around 30 degrees, with the aim of going long. In heavy RPO offenses, we've also seen the rise of the glance post, a quick-hitting variant where the receiver angles his stem wider, attacking the space created by the run-pass option. It's somewhere between a slant and a post. Receivers aren't just limited to one cut though, and can combine multiple in what we call a double move. These are designed to play off of more traditional routes, and are a great counter when the defender starts sitting on the cut point, burning them for their greediness. The stop and go is a receiver favorite, first faking the hitch before spinning on a dime and going deep. The sluggo used to be more common and is deadly when timed, fooling DBs into crashing on the slant only to get toasted on the go. There's also post corners and corner posts, which work when the defender is acting greedy on these deep 45 cuts, making them turn before attacking them the opposite way. Last, and perhaps the most commonly run double moves, are whips and returns. The whips start by breaking in, selling an inside route, only for the receiver to break back towards the sideline. The return is just this, but mirrored, and is a very common route in the modern NFL, as it times up real well in a progression read. Another route that provides multiple directions to cut is the option or choice route. It's only one cut this time, but the direction of this break is given to the receiver. Reading the coverage, they're given license to always make the defense wrong, cutting in, out, or vertical to find the space. It takes a split-second decision-making and elite visual processing to know exactly how to adjust, and guys who can run these effectively become a QB's best friend. And lastly, crossing routes. And they are exactly as they sound, aiming to cross the field and stretch the defense horizontally. Depending on the depth of the cross, you'll hear all sorts of names, but they're all part of the same family and carry out the same purpose: run away from the coverage and stretch the field horizontally. Now that we understand the tree, let's talk about some more advanced techniques elite receivers use to get open. The importance of the cut point cannot be stressed enough, as this is often what creates the separation. Elite wide receivers waste no movement in their cuts, keeping them sharp and using as few steps as they can to redirect their momentum. Varying your acceleration and accelerating out of the cut also creates greater separation, not only giving DBs a change of direction to deal with, but a faster pace. Top-tier receivers will also add subtle body feints and head nods to these cuts to fool the DB. At NFL speeds, a quick nod can have a corner turning tail. While speed helps here, technique matters more. There's a reason Jason Witten was open for 17 straight years. It's also important to make all the stems of your route look identical as to not tip off your intentions. DBs do their homework, and if you leave tells on tape, you'll find yourself smothered even if you ran the correct footwork. Outside of crossing routes, it's important to always look like you're trying to push vertically to get the defense to back up, creating space for a cut. That doesn't mean everything has to be in a straight line though, and elite wideouts not only get DBs backing up, but attack them by getting into their space. Another elite way to challenge a DB is by attacking their blind spot. Once you can get a DB to turn, they have a natural blind spot over their shoulder, and a crafty receiver will drift their route into this spot and then make their cut, leaving the DB none the wiser. Another advanced technique is stacking. This is where you go over the top of the man covering you, and then you use your body as a shield to keep him off the route. If you can successfully stack your DB, you now control the speed of the route, and a good cut and head nod will give them no chance to keep up. The last advanced technique is reading and reacting to coverages. In the modern NFL, it's not just good enough to run your route. You've got to know how to adjust it based on the defense you're seeing. These details include whether it's man or zone, the safety structure, and how close the nearest defender is. This will tell you the coverage and if the route needs to be flattened to find a better angle, stalled to sit in the space, or changed entirely to attack a new open gap. We'll come back to reading coverages in our QBs for Dummies video, so you best be subscribed for that. So, we've got out the blocks and we've ran the route, but none of that matters if you can't catch the rock. An elite receiver isn't just catching everything that comes their way, they're catching it the right way, maximizing ball security and yards after the catch. First is catching with your eyes. Like anything in football, you block, tackle, or catch what you can see, and you gotta watch the ball all the way into your hands on every catch. A tip for this is to focus on the rotation of the football. This makes the ball appear to slow down. This sounds mad, but next time you're throwing a ball around, try it out. Next comes using your hands, and you want to be catching the ball away from your body so your arms can act as shock absorbers, cushioning the ball in and away from any hit you might take. Catching away from your body is the biggest clear-cut difference between a great wide receiver and a journeyman. It's a hard skill to develop while in the NFL, so to all you young pass catchers, start learning now. It's also a key to yards after the catch. If you let the ball come into your body, you'll often break stride to do so, limiting your momentum with the football. Learning to catch away from your body also naturally has you meeting the ball at its apex, attacking the ball before any defender can make a play. This is critical in the NFL, especially on deep throws and contested situations, where DBs are just as good athletes as you are. Meeting the ball early and at its apex is often the difference between a catch and a pass breakup. There are exceptions to every rule. In rainy conditions, it can actually be advantageous to catch with your body, giving you more points of contact with the slippery ball and more chance to squeeze it in. And always make sure you tuck every catch you make. Dangling the ball out is just a recipe for disaster. If the defense forces you to juke back and the ball's still out loose, someone's gonna pop you and spring that ball free. Finally, you've got the ball, and now it's time to inflict extra damage, turning those 6-yard catches into 15-yard bursts, and 12-yard gains into 40-yard field flippers. Having post-catch moves is such an important skill in the modern era, and knowing what direction to turn upfield or how to juke a defender can break the game wide open. And this comes back to our earlier point about reading coverages. If you know what they're running, you know the gaps after the catch too. The ability to turn any route into a touchdown is the most sought-after skill in the NFL. So get this skill in your arsenal and you'll be highly sought after. There's an old saying in football, if you can't block, you ain't gonna get the rock. And in the NFL, this is especially true. Wide receivers are key players in the run game and have only become increasingly more so as the league shifts back towards the run. With so many teams condensing formations to attack too high structures, wideouts are now being asked to make blocks at all three levels of the defense, and strong ones too. A strong block doesn't just mean staying in the defender's way, it means driving them out of the gap or shielding them away to give the runner a clear path. In spread formations, blocking is just as key, helping to get it back to the edge or seal in a third-level defender to break a long run. And on passing plays, blocking for your fellow receivers downfield will yield great results. Throwing the block that enables a massive catch and run, or the last block needed for a touchdown, is one of the most underrated qualities of an elite wide receiver, and the best way to earn a coach's trust. Mastering blocking isn't as flashy as catching touchdowns, but it is a foundation of football, and a huge part of what makes a wide receiver dependable. So, that's everything that goes into being an NFL wide receiver. Far more than just running and catching. The position brings the glory and the glamour, but without the hard work and know-how, you're just out there running on air.